Josh. Good afternoon, everyone. Wednesday, here we are. How are we all feeling? Tired? I'm very pleased to see you. Thanks for making the effort to come along to our session, and I want to involve you in the session as well. So this is going to be a participation session. We're going to do a bit of a conversation up here, following short introductions on this topic, and then we want to get you guys involved in the conversation. So we'd love you to think of your questions, and I'll probably take questions sort of 3 at a time. You just have to raise your hand when it gets to that point in the session. So yes, as Josh said, I'm Charles Perry. I'm a partner in Rise. I'm based in London. Rise's head office is in Brussels, and we advise corporations on sustainability, and that's both on the strategic side and on the embedding sustainable business practices side. And this is a very important topic that we're dealing with today, building trust in a post-truth era. So I'm going to go straight into asking each panelist just to tell us a bit about what they do and for which organization. Starting with Kamran, I know you flew in from Singapore. So can you just tell everyone who you are?
Great. My name is Kamran Khan. I head ESG at the group level for Deutsche Bank in Asia. So that covers the investment bank, the corporate bank, the private bank, and so on. And we're a client-facing team, and our mandate is to advise clients on appropriate, credible ESG transactions, and B, to make sure that we manage our reputation and not get caught in any kind of greenwashing and those types of allegations.
Thank you very much. And just a bit more about your biography. So Kamran, I think, did you work for the Obama administration?
I did. I was with the Obama administration in the second term of President Obama as the head of global investments and operations for U.S. Millennium Challenge Corporation.
Thanks very much. So going straight then to Joanne. Joanne, please tell us your role and how did you get here? When did you arrive?
Okay, my name is Joanne Yawitch. I'm from the National Business Initiative in South Africa, which is a membership-based business organization. We have around 100 company members, and for the last 25, 26 years, we have worked with them around what is now called ESG, what used to be called responsible business. And we support our company members in the way they approach socio-economic and environmental transformation in South Africa.
Thank you, Joanne. And you flew in last night directly from Johannesburg?
Yeah. Flew in yesterday morning from Joburg.
Very good. And you were with the Department of Environment before that?
Yeah, I worked for government for 17 years from 1994, so when the new democratic government came in. And at the point I left government, I was headed up climate change in national government. Yeah. And
actually, just to go a bit further, because we all know what happened in 1994, 1995. Of course, President Nelson Mandela became the president of South Africa. I'm South African. You probably could tell from my accent. That was the birth of the new South Africa. What were you doing before 1994, Joanne?
This is like old history. It really dates me. But so before 1994, I was an activist, I suppose. I worked. My paid work was for organizations, working with a group of organizations that supported communities in South Africa who were fighting forced removals. So worked in the land sector and also worked in what was called at that point in time the mass democratic movement. So the kind of, I suppose the very broad umbrella of organizations that fought apartheid.
Excellent. And one last thing. You're on the President's Climate Task Force, right? Can you just tell us a bit about that?
Okay. So I'm sure that some of you have seen that South Africa has launched a Just Energy Transition Investment Plan at the COP. Our President launched it together with a set of, with the US, the EU, the UK, France and Germany at the Leaders Summit. And so we've produced this investment plan, and I've spent most of the last year running the secretariat that did all of the technical and coordination work around the investment plan. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Joanne.
Charles,
Right.
it's enough.
Dominique, how are you? Where did you get to COP?
I'm good. I arrived at COP last week, but my journey here, I am a Arctic Angel with Global Choices, and I'm a youth climate justice activist, speaker, and writer based in the UK. And my focus is on uniting people for climate action and applying pressure on world leaders.
Excellent. And tell us a bit more about how you got into climate activism. I mean, when you were studying at university, were you involved in climate activism? At what point did you get active?
So I got active in my gap year right before I started studying at university in political science. And around my area that I was living in, my community, I discovered how it was being disproportionately impacted by air pollution. I was living in South London at the time, and that really was a call to action for me, seeing how environmental issues were right there in my community and affecting people today. And I connected that and started learning more about the severity of the climate crisis, and then I got involved in organising the climate strikes with Fridays for Future in London, and from there has been a journey in utilising so many different tools and methods to try and unite people for climate action.
Amazing, amazing. So delighted that you could join us on the panel. So let's get straight into it, and we're going to tackle some pretty thorny issues here, right? We're not going to shy away from getting into the truth, because we're in a post-truth era, but we need to bring the truth back and embrace it, because otherwise we'll never build any trust, because we'll never believe each other, because we'll always think each other are lying. So let's try and establish some truths here and what companies do about embracing the truth, internalizing the truth, and then communicating the truth. Because there's a lot of accusations of greenwash, purpose wash going on in both the world of business and in the world of governments around the whole race to zero, race to resilience. The twin campaigns that I helped launch when I was on Nigel Topping's COP26 Climate Champions team for 12 months. So let's start with net zero. Dominique, I mean, do you find that a lot of organizations just sort of say, yeah, we're in the race to zero, but they've got no science-based pathway? I mean, it is a criteria to the race to zero to have a science-based pathway. How do you think companies are responding to the challenge of net zero?
What I see in the race to zero is a lot of commitments or pledges being made for targets to get to net zero by 2030, or even a lot of the times 2050, which is way too late and is not based on a science-based pathway, but not the commitments and the follow-through and the actual concrete action plans to show how they're going to get there.
And when you look at companies, not only in the UK, but around the world, I mean, is there an example of a company that you think like really has shown credibility when it comes to the race to zero?
I think that there are a lot of companies that have shown that they're committed to their environmental strategies and their targets, such as Patagonia. I think they've been I think they've been really great at that, and a company called Lush, which has actually done that as well, but has also been involved in engaging other stakeholders as like the youth, and actually been involved in initiatives and campaigns when it comes to climate action outside of just what they're doing as a business and in their business model. And I think there are a lot of examples of companies that are actually changing their business models to be in line with sustainability, rather than just announcing pledges but then not following through with it, and thinking about the long term and not just the short term profit.
And I mean, you've talked about a leader. Patagonia is a wonderful example, and you bring to mind the B Corp movement. But are you brave enough to talk about a laggard? I mean, you don't even have to say why you think